What is the most insane documentary you've ever seen? Grizzly Man by Werner Herzog. It's a documentary about Timothy Treadwell, an environmentalist who spent 13 summers in Alaska camping out with grizzly bears and eventually gets eaten along with his girlfriend. And it was caught on tape, because he filmed everything. Dude was clearly not all there. Just a sad story, but fascinating. Tell Me Who I Am was the most heartbreaking documentary I've ever seen. It's about these twin brothers and one of them gets into a bad motorcycle accident when he was 18 and doesn't remember anything from before. His brother has to decide whether to tell him everything or let him live in ignorant bliss. I watched one about Fyre Festival. The shit that went down was insane. Internet historian does a good take on things. The Jinx. The Nightmare is one of my favorite films in general. It's a documentary featuring several people talking about their experiences with sleep paralysis, what they see during the episodes, and any events that are related. Most of these are also reenacted, with some really scary visuals. The Act of Killing. There's Something Wrong with Aunt Diane is a good one about the 2009 Taconic State Parkway, Collison. The Woman Who Wasn't There. Highly recommend. It's about this lady who lied about being in the World Trade Centers on 9/11, even founded a survivors group. Really fucked up. The Wild and Wonderful Whites of West Virginia. Produced by Johnny Knoxville. It's about backwoods toe dancer Jiko White and his hillbilly family. Wildly entertaining. Seen it 4 times. Either Abducted in Plain Sight or * Mommy Dead and Dearest. * Class Action Park. It's about this old amusement park in New Jersey called Action Park that had an insane number of injuries. Former employees and guests talk about each ride and what made it fun and unsafe. There are animations of people getting hurt, so those parts aren't too hard to watch. It also includes interviews about a specific fatality, so I do want to make that clear as a trigger warning. But mostly it's a fascinating look at how kids grew up in the 80s and 90s and whether that was the best thing. There's a lot of nostalgia, but I don't think anyone wants their kid to be the one who's fatally electrocuted on a kayak ride. Only the Dead is a documentary about Iraq, produced by an Australian journalist during the war. He got an inside look at the insurgency, the jihadists, and how Iraq became a nightmare over time. Some of the footage is incredibly graphic. Another was called Brian on the Boulevard, which was a documentary about a male prostitute in Los Angeles whilst also being addicted to drugs. It was so honest and so haunting to see. I don't recommend either if you want to feel good about humanity, but if you are fascinated by such grim facts of life, they are indeed insane and unbelievable to watch. Free Solo. Tickled. Thought it was going to be just a fun and weird look at a goofy sport, but it was so disturbing and wild. Man on Wire was pretty interesting, especially for a guy like me who is afraid of heights. I'd also go with *, who the $& is Jackson Pollock. * is brilliant, who buys a suspected real Pollock painting at a yard sale, potentially worth millions. Wild Wild Country was crazy. Dear Zachary. Shoah. It's a 10-hour-long documentary on the Holocaust. It is completely unflinching and relentlessly grim. The Imposter, 2012. What a ride. I saw the documentary, An Open Secret, by Amy Berg. It horrified me. It told the truth about pedophiles in Hollywood, including Mark Collins Rector and X-Men director Bryan Singer. The film had a limited festival release in 2014, but not many people saw it because of Hollywood mafia. Operation Odessa. It's a documentary about this group of guys who managed to obtain and sell military equipment from the collapsed USSR to Cuba from Florida, among other things. It's fascinating and hilarious, but also shockingly all true. The name actually comes from the name of the DIA operation that brought them down. One of them managed to get away, but they secured an interview with him in an undisclosed location on the documentary. Tread. A guy with a grievance destroys an entire town with a bulldozer. Abducted in Plain Sight. I still can't believe those parents. Jesus Camp. The McDonald's Monopoly Scam documentary, $McMillion. I'd never heard of it before, so it was really interesting and pretty insane. Does Tiger King count? The Wild and Wonderful Whites of West Virginia. Sasquatch on Hulu is a 3-episode documentary about pot farmers that were supposedly killed by Sasquatch in California. The revelation is wild. The Trials of Gabriel Fernandez, on Netflix. This precious little boy was tortured to death by his mom and her boyfriend. His mom recently tried to have her conviction overturned. Probably 3 identical strangers. My family has a personal connection to that same adoption agency, so it really struck me. Icarus is a pretty interesting one. Starts off as something totally different than the story that the documentary ends up pursuing. The Keepers. American Murder. The Family Next Door. I'm not a huge documentary person, so this is probably pretty tame, but hail Satan. Until the Light Takes Us. Evil Genius. It's about the aftermath of a bank robbery in which the bank robber was a captive who had a bomb collar strapped to their neck. It's definitely one hell of a watch. Orozco El Embalsamador. It's a documentary about an embalmer who works in a poor area in Colombia. It's pretty graphic. Evil Genius and abducted in plain sight because WTF. The King of Kong. A Fistful of Quarters. About the man whose goal was to set the world record on Donkey Kong, and the record holder he sought to dethrone trying to stop him. The people in this flick are bonkers. Capturing the Freedmans. Surprised no one has mentioned this one yet. Don't fuck with cats. Showa. I saw it was 9 hours long and thought I'll watch an hour of it. And #X200B. Nope, watched it all in one sitting. No regrets. No. It's hard to top, The Act of Killing. There's an excellent documentary on an incident during the Troubles in Northern Ireland called No Stone Unturned. It's an investigative journalism piece about British forces' collusion and cover-up of the 1994 Loughlin Island massacre, when 6 people in a bar watching Ireland play in the World Cup were murdered by masked paramilitary gunmen with assault rifles. The methodical, step-by-step investigation and laying out of the very incriminating evidence makes for a truly fascinating watch. 2 of the filmmakers were later arrested by the PSNI and then released. Not an easy watch, but highly recommend it. Super Size Me. I know documentaries are full of misrepresented truth for a good story, but that one is so blatant it's basically watching one long string of lies, and watching it knowing what they're doing is insane. Insane that he was considered a legitimate information source trying to solve something. One about rogue waves. It scared the bejesus out of me when I was younger. I'll never forget it. Imposter. It's the story of this kid who went missing when he was 12 or 13 and then reappeared something like 10 years later. It documents him getting back to and reuniting with his family. But get this. It wasn't the actual missing kid, but instead a French scam artist who did this shit serially. Now what makes the doc crazy is the story is told with interviews from the family and the fucking scam artist. He obviously a sociopath, so he just calmly explains his motives and justifications for getting this poor family's hopes up. There's footage of all this as well as reenactments with the guy. It's super creepy. Lancet. It was about Lufthansa Flight 181 which was hijacked in 1977. The plane made a big odyssey and the pilot of the plane risked and lost his life for his passengers. In the end, the plane got stormed by GSG-9 police units on their first mission, except the captain of the plane who was shot days earlier and 3 of 4 hijackers. Everybody survived. The documentary made a very interesting mix of interviews, including with the one surviving hijacker, documentary explanations of the background decisions and some scenes played by actors. The Secret Life of Plants. It used to be on Netflix, not sure if it still is. Highlights include a soundtrack by Stevie Wonder, an interpretive dance segment, and loads of dubiously scientific reenactments. Clarkson's Farm. There's something wrong with Aunt Diane. Those awful Hitler, Nazi Germany documentaries they played on the History Channel all through the 90s to oh. You know the ones, Hitler and the Occult. The case for Hitler being a gay man, ancient aliens in contact with Hitler, that fucking Bell time machine thing. The series where people try to prove that Hitler escaped to Argentina under a fake identity. It just goes on. All of them are complete and utter garbage. I watched a Flat Earth documentary for kicks. It was some ancient aliens tier stupidity. The Boy Who Was Turned Into a Girl, the case of Bruce Reimer. The terrible story of a man who was turned into a girl by an accident is very crude, and it is difficult not to feel bad seeing it. Some Kind of Heaven. It's about the Villages, a very white, retirement community in Florida. I can't imagine choosing that life when you could, not. The Wonderful World of Dung, BBC. I haven't seen too many, but so far Dear Zachary, on top of being one of the saddest movies I've ever seen, that reveal was immensely fucked up. Not to mention fucking terrifying with all that red light and screaming sounds. The new Jack documentary. Pretty sure the dude died after production. McMillions. As a kid I played that Monopoly game from McDonald's with my brothers but never knew it was being stolen for years. This one documentary on the FLDS. I forget the name, but geez, it is just as absorbing as a true crime documentary. Tell Me Who I Am is some dark shit. Dope, sick, love. Addicts trying to get their fix in NYC. 3 Identical Strangers. The Snowden docs showing massive illegally spying on all Americans has been ongoing and getting more intense. Prior to Snowden I assumed this was true. And then I was even more shocked that so many didn't seem to care that the government was not following its own laws. A documentary about maple syrup theft and the maple syrup black market in Canada. It is on Netflix in the docuseries Dirty Money, the maple syrup heist episode. Stole tons of 50-gallon barrels of maple syrup without anyone knowing. BBC Louis Theroux. The Most Hated Family in America. I think this was the title. It's about Westboro Baptist. We all know that they are insane, so this would probably go up there as most insane. I'm not a big documentary person, but The Trials of Gabriel Fernandez just really messed me up. That poor kid went through so much shit and CPS did nothing about it after multiple reports. I'm hoping that his mother and her boyfriend have the worst possible treatment for the rest of their lives, like how they treated him. Also, the CPS people who didn't do anything, they need to seriously reevaluate themselves. The Pharmacist. A guy who goes searching for his son's murderer and winds up uncovering the beginnings of the opioid addiction in New Orleans. The Barkley Marathons. Dear Zachary. It's just all around sad. Makes you see how fucked up the Canadian judicial system is at that time for extraditing criminals to the US. The Wild Parrots of Telegraph Hill. As someone who has not connected much to animals and pets, that one caught me by surprise. Loved this one. Finders Keepers. A man loses his foot in a small plane accident that also kills his father. He has some PTSD issues that kind of center around this severed foot, which he keeps and stores in a smoker in a storage unit. At some point he stops making payments on the unit and this other man buys the unit at auction. He discovers the foot in the smoker and decides it is going to make him famous. There's a full-on custody battle for this foot and it is just so sad on both sides. It's one of those things. It is such a ridiculous premise you start laughing about it, but then realize those are real people. Real damaged people. Children of the Secret State. It's a document on North Korea during the massive famine that took the lives of millions in the late 1990s through mid-2000s. It was not what I expected, to say the least. Please be warned. I'm gonna mention some very messed up stuff that includes cannibalism and child murder. So this documentary was made with the help of a NK journalist who would capture footage, in secret with hidden cams, and then smuggle it out to the other filmmakers via China. The famine was so immense that the woods and forests of NK were silent, as everything including insects were being picked clean by citizens. Children who were orphaned at this time got the absolute worst of it. The film shows footage and stills of blonde NK kids, so malnourished their hair lost pigment. Their fate was the worst. The Gov constructed cement buildings with no windows and only a single door. Once the building was full, they would brick up the door and simply wait for them to die so the building could be cleaned out for the next batch. There were reports of teeth marks and signs children had attempted to consume the dead while sealed in. Many young children who were smuggled out to China, and on to SK, during this era were given psychological counseling. Many told stories of male family members killing themselves with the instruction that their bodies be butchered and fed to the family. Some even drew pictures of human limbs being sold at markets, like a chunk of fresh pork might be. The Red Cross attempted to aid the situation, but all their aid drops were confiscated by the government and sold to the wealthy elite of NK. The whole situation was beyond words. The Ivory Tower. Watched it before sending our daughter to college. It's about how the universities and colleges in the US spend sick amounts of money on fun stuff, health clubs, swimming pools, and all sorts of playtime crap to attract the young students, and how little they invest into academics. This results in very bloated tuition costs and lesser education than in the previous time before about 2000. It's a must-see for parents about to dump way too much money into today's secondary education system. I am all for higher education done right. My brother is a manager at a prominent university in Washington state, and the amount of wasted money is sickening. Choose carefully for the best return. This is Spinal Tap. Blackfish. There's a serial killer whale out there that we didn't know about. The Cove, 2009. It really traumatized me when I watched it at 13, to the point wherein I made an Instagram account and posted infographics about what's happening in Japan at that time. Probably the dark side of the ring. Chris Benoit shit was disturbing AF. Operation Odessa was pretty weird. Guys selling Russian submarine to Mexican drug cartel. Selling Sex by Louis Theroux wasn't exactly insane, but it was heartbreaking and has stuck with me. One girl said she had a good relationship with her pimp. He was cool and he respected her. I think she even said he loved her. They were pictured at one point walking down the street like a loving couple. During an interview with her, she found she had lost her night's money and became almost hysterical with fear of the extremely severe beating she was going to get from him. Another had to work all night and then was driven somewhere else to work all day. She was allowed 2 hours in between, during which she could choose between eating and sleeping. So many vulnerable girls preyed on and tricked into prostitution by psychological and emotional manipulation and kept there by violence. Many said their pimp loved, respected and took care of them. He must do because he bought her haircuts, nails and tans, obviously making the merchandise more sellable. They had a pimp's ball where all the local pimps showed off their girls by parading them single file, and they weren't allowed to look up, like a slave market. Thanks for watching. See you later.